I'm Debbie Reber, and welcome to Tilt Parenting, a podcast featuring interviews and conversations aimed at inspiring, informing, and supporting parents raising differently wired kids. I get a lot of questions from listeners looking for help navigating complex situations with their kids. So in this new mini episode format, I'll be answering listener questions, sometimes all on my own, sometimes with one of the parent coaches from the Differently Wired Club, and sometimes with an author or expert who's become a trusted resource. Think of these bite-sized, short and sweet parent-leaning episodes as a quick check-in. One question, one answer, featuring strategies, tips, or reframes that can support you in your parenting world. To submit a question for a parent-lean-in episode, just go to tiltparenting.com/lean-in. That's tiltparenting.com/LEANIN. All right, here's today's episode. Hey everybody, I am here with Seth Perler, my friend, my colleague, who is generously joining me for this Parent Lean-In episode. If you're not familiar with Seth, he is an executive function coach and consultant with extensive experience addressing extraordinarily diverse learning needs. He's been on the show a bunch of times before. We talk a lot about executive function. My kid has interviewed Seth for a conversation before. And Seth is really passionate about meeting the unique needs of students, and he places heavy emphasis on addressing social, emotional, lifestyle, and executive function issues to really help students create amazing lives for themselves. I know that's kind of your big picture mission. So you guys, if you're not familiar with Seth, he has a ton of resources on his website, which is sethperler.com. He also recently launched this awesome community called the Executive Function Lab. He coaches people there on how to get results. He offers a ton of tools, and it's just a great community. So you can find out more about that at executivefunctionlab.com. So hello,
and
Seth.
the summit, which is coming up this summer, executivefunctionsummit.com in August.
And how many years has that been running now?
I think it's the 6th year.
Oh my goodness. TFOS. Yes,
Crazy.
That's another amazing event. So check out Seth for all the things. But as you'll hear from this episode, he's also, I learn every time I talk to Seth. He's got a lot of great insight. So welcome to the show, Seth.
Hey, Debbie.
So this question was called in from a listener. I'm going to play it for y'all, and then we will get to some ideas.
Hey, Debbie. My name's Ashley, and I have a question about my son, who's currently a 5th grader. And, of course, I'm already thinking ahead to him going into 6th grade and middle school, and just the sheer amount of changes that will happen in that time with multiple teachers, navigating different classrooms. He will go from not having homework to having homework, just a lot. And to be honest, I feel really overwhelmed at that prospect. His 4th grade was very challenging. This 5th grade year has actually gotten a lot better as we've made adjustments to his IEP. And I'm just wondering, what are the ways in which we can prepare him? What are ways to get him ready for that? And really, I'm curious to know if you have experience or have any recommendations to get connected with people that do like part-time school, like maybe go for partial days and do more schoolwork at home. I'm just worried that a full day of middle school ongoing for a year is going to be too much.
Okay, so I have some thoughts. I'll kick us off, and then Seth will hear what you have to say. So, gosh, as I read this, I really I felt this parent's anxiety. I have been there. At every stage, I'm always kind of looking at the future, the next 6 months, the next year, the next school year, and trying to anticipate all of the potential problems so that I can proactively plan for all of them so that I can prevent anything bad from happening. So I get into this really, kind of hyperactive control mode. I want guarantees, essentially. So I just want to put that out there to start with, that it is actually impossible to plan for every potential possibility, to kind of force this, ideal or perfect future to unfold and to control what's going to happen. And I know this because I've tried many, many times. So it's impossible to do, and it can be very stressful and put a lot of pressure on ourselves to think that we have to figure it all out. So just putting that out there. With that said, couple things. One is first of all, I'd start by talking to your kid, and not right now, because, you want to do this as the school year gets closer over summer break, and not one big conversation, but just kind of check in with your kid here and there. Find out, what is he worried about? If anything at all. This might not be on his radar at all, but get a sense about, what does he think it's going to be like? Is there anything he's concerned about? Anything he's really excited about? So I would be having these ongoing small conversations to kind of get a sense of where he's at, so that if there are some specific concerns that he has, or some, I guess, blind spots is the word that's coming to mind. Like, he might think this is going to be easy, but you as a parent know this is not going to be that easy. So kind of identify those things, and then start to kind of proactively plan for some of those things. Like, you'll start to get a sense of where the gaps are, where you anticipate there being some challenges. And so thinking about, okay, what are some things I can put in place? What are some ways we can maybe pick one or two skills to start building right now? Again, in collaboration with your child, and in a way that your child can feel some agency over it and excitement over learning those things. So that's one thought. My second thought, and then I'm going to pass the baton to you, Seth, is while we can't plan for the future, we can, again, anticipate this might not go well, or I could see this happening, and we can come up with some if this, then that ideas, just to kind of help our mind quiet down. So we're not going to be able to plan for every potential outcome. Something's going to happen that we could never have predicted. That's just the way life is. But we can kind of say, okay, if all the crap hits the fan, then this is what we'll do next, and just kind of give yourself a limited period of time to come up with, okay, if this, then that, a couple of options, so you can quiet your mind and say, you know what? I know you're anxious about this, but we've already discussed it. We have a backup plan. And now I'm just going to turn off the anxiety, or try to be gentle with that part of myself, and just be curious and let this unfold, because I don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea what's going to happen. So those are some initial thoughts. We're going to take a quick break, and then Seth, I'd love to hear from you on this. During this month of planning and organization for big transitions, rhythms and routines have been absolutely essential for our physical and emotional well-being. So Green Chef nights are reliably and predictably a good night. We know the ingredients will be fresh and prepped, the instructions easy to follow, and the meal delicious. We're all still talking about last week's turkey tacos with mango chimichurri sauce, refried beans, and Monterey Jack cheese. Green Chef contributes to a healthy lifestyle with easy and delicious menus like fresh seasonal salads and green bowls, and with over 80 weekly meal and market options, plus rotating options to suit a variety of lifestyles, whether Mediterranean, plant-based, calorie-smart, keto, protein-packed, gluten-free. There are always plenty of options to choose from. Whatever you select, you'll get farm-fresh ingredients, organic whole fruits and veggies, and premium proteins, all delivered straight to your door. I love those 4 words. Straight to my door. Oh, and one more thing I love about Green Chef, they have an app, which means it's easy to manage meal preferences and delivery from your phone if you want to. And I, for one, want to. I am in that mode where I'm making the most of little moments like waiting in line at the pharmacy, or for the F train to pull into the station, to tackle all of those to-dos. So the convenience of an app is key for me. Green Chef has a special offer for Tilt listeners. Go to greenchef.com/tilt50 and use code TILT50 to get 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. That's 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months when you use the code TILT50 at greenchef.com/tilt50. Maybe I've watched too many seasons of The Amazing Race, but every time I have to go somewhere on the subway, I treat it like a competition. It's all about making the right gut decisions about which route will get me there the fastest. Sometimes those decisions get me where I'm going early, and other times my gambles don't really pay off. Probiotics can't help with most gut decisions, but if your gut needs a little support, Ritual has your back. Their Symbiotic Plus, a 3-in-1 supplement, has clinically studied prebiotics, probiotics, and a postbiotic to support a balanced gut microbiome. I've been using Symbiotic Plus for about 6 months now, and it's become a core part of my morning routine. I take the mini capsule every morning while making my way through my inbox, whether I'm at home or I'm on the road, because it doesn't need to be refrigerated. And the capsule itself is delayed released, which helps it survive the harsh conditions of the upper GI tract for delivery to the colon. And that's exactly where we want it to go. Ritual invested in a study modeling the human colon, which showed that Symbiotic Plus significantly increased microbial diversity and the growth of beneficial bacteria. There's no more shame in your gut game. Symbiotic Plus and Ritual are here to celebrate, not hide your insides. Get 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/tilt. Start Ritual or add Symbiotic Plus to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/tilt for 25% off. All right, Seth. So tell me what came up for you when you first heard this question.
The first thing that came up for me was I was super excited that they're being proactive, because I hear so many parents that say, we saw red flags when they were in 3rd or 4th grade and didn't do anything about it. And now they're in 10th grade and blah, blah. So it is so good that they are being proactive. And I also thought that, they're wondering if it might be too much for their kid. Well, it probably will be. On the other hand, sometimes we find out that they really step up, especially if the parent's proactive and your child can feel capable and like they have a toolkit. So I want you to imagine a toolbox in your garage, and that toolbox has a bunch of tools in it, and you know how to use most of them a little bit. That's what you want to start 6th grade with. Now, I taught 5th and 6th grade for 6 or 7 years, 5-6 combo. I love that age, by the way. It is probably my favorite age. I think it's such a cool age. And it's such a great opportunity. It's such a great opportunity to have big influence on these kids as they're coming into who they are. But they can, if they can really, as I said before, they can really step up to it if they feel like they have a little bit of a toolbox. That way, when they go in on the first day, there's a foundation and stuff makes sense to them. They have a much better idea of what's going on. So I love that the parent asked this. So in terms of like figuring out how to do that, there's a couple of thoughts. There's a lot of thoughts that I'll get into in a minute. But first of all, in my summit and my executive function lab and my course, the UGYG course, especially the course, I go through really everything that you need for that foundation. So there's that. Shameless plug there. And then the second thing is that we must plan. And this is exactly what you were talking about. We can't do everything. It's not going to happen. It's not realistic. But we can take steps to plan. And there are specific, concrete things that your child will need. And I love the if, then, then that approach. But that allows you now to be proactive during the summer and to use this summer to write up a plan, hopefully with buy-in and ownership, hopefully with your child for the summer, where you spread it out, the different things that you're going to do to plan and get some buy-in right now and write it on a big giant wall calendar, which I love, that on this day, we're going to work on your SSS, what I call a sacred study space. On this day, we're going to research your teachers' websites and learn about them. On this day, we're going to set up a tour. On this day, we'll do school shopping, etc. So set up several times during the summer when you can have fun, when it's relaxed, but set it up now on the calendar with your child and then follow through. Take time to do those things. And like Debbie said, discuss what it's going to be like, get buy-in and ownership, ask them what they think. And then here are some specific, can I share some specific things that?
Yeah.
So as somebody who taught this grade and has worked with all these families, so things that you can do, I would really encourage you to use the big giant desk calendar on the wall and a planner over the summer with your child. And that when your child says, when are we going to so-and-so, that your response should always be, oh, it's right there on the calendar, and not rescue them and tell them. Get them looking at the calendar. Make it so that it's there's no resistance to it. It's just an easy thing for them. They're used to working with calendars or a planner, either way, but something to start scaffolding that. I cannot tell you how important planning and planners and calendars and calendaring and learning skills around that are. So start doing that now. Next thing, just think of outside the box ideas. But one outside the box idea I had with this one is, your kid's going to be going from class to class to class, is to have a quote locker at home, meaning that you can have a little box or a space at home that is, you can even call the locker just for the summer, that where they're just sort of getting used to, this is where I have to go to get the thing. So again, like with the calendar, when your kid says, when are we doing this? You can say, well, look at the calendar. When they say, where is this? You can say, well, go check your locker. And you can be using that as a place to leave things for them. Like if they're going to summer camp and they need things during there, et cetera. So another thing I did want to say when they were asking about the different class schedules and different types of options around that if there is an opportunity to take fewer classes, I'd really rather see the child take fewer classes and be able to get their skills down during that first year. So that's really wise if there are, and different kinds of creative options like what they're asking about. Next thing is if they can tour the school, do the tour, ask if you can do a tour, go early. Like if kids can go into middle school and walk around, get familiar with it, if you can go to the playground during the summer several times and they can start understanding the layout, it is really overwhelming for kids when they're coming into sixth grade to understand, especially with all these big kids walking all around and where their locker is and how the bells work and all that. So do tours, and then set up meetings proactively with the teachers. Don't wait for conferences. Say, hey, can we pop in and say hi for 5 minutes? And if you can, bring your child with you and just say, hey, we wanted to know a few things. And this leads into the next one. The few things that you might ask them in a meeting with them is what you can also put in an advocacy email proactively to the teachers to, one, ask about certain things, and two, to share about your kid. You do not want to write a giant email to the teachers. They have a lot going on at the beginning of the year. Just a quick, hey, here's 3 things that my kid responds well to and 3 questions for you. But some of the most important questions that I have for teachers are, when do you post homework on your portal? How accurate is it? What if we need an extra copy? Where do we turn things in? How reliable are you about posting the grades? Like, some teachers post right away, and then teachers are really aware, and some do it once every month or month and a half. It's like really random. And then you find out your kid is failing the class and has a bunch of zeros. So I'd want to get some clarity around some of those things, like how long should homework take, whatever your questions are. So I would not ask them 50 questions. Mm-hmm. If you meet them, that's one thing, but in an email, keep it short. And then you can set up accountability proactively, like, hey, maybe we can start study groups with one of your friends every Sunday or every Wednesday, and we just have a study party and make it fun. And like that can be some sort of accountability, a tutor, you can set it up now, things like that. Setting up a homework routine during the summer, talking through your child. What would a homework routine look like? Let's set up our study space, the SNO, which is my Sunday night overhaul. Let's figure out what we're going to do once a week to overhaul your systems. Start using a timer during the summer and model it, whether or not you're using it with them. Use a timer a lot, and this can help with them understanding how the bells are working there and how long 3 minutes is or whatever, but also just helping them grasp how long things take more effectively so that they can anticipate the gravity of the homework, because the hand holding stops a lot of times in sixth grade and the wheels can fall off. Declutter during the summer. And then my last thing is after the decluttering is organize and label things with your kid, make it fun, make it a party, get cool boxes and stuff like that. Put big giant labels on it so that they have a decluttered space of their own for their studying, for their own personal stuff, and that they're really ready to hit the ground running. That was a lot.
Such good insights. Like every time I hear you talk about this stuff, I'm like, oh, I should have done that. Oh, I missed that window. But I love all those specific strategies. I love the locker at home. I've never heard that before. So
I just made that one up today.
I love it. I love that.
But think weird creative thoughts like that, you know?
Yeah, it's great. It's brilliant. And I love what you said, just to kind of wrap up, that our kids also can surprise us. So just staying curious and open, your kid's going to be a completely different kid 6 months from now. So just kind of really trusting in the process and just being present for what is happening. In addition to this planning and like all the stuff that Seth just shared, But again, trying to find that balance between trying to control what's going to happen and creating the right support and the right conditions, and then being open to how things are going to unfold. And then I do want to just touch upon, and you mentioned this briefly, the homeschooling piece. It really, I'll just say, it depends on your state, like how flexible schools will be for you to like take some classes at a local public school and then do the rest homeschooling. So I think you'd have to do a little investigating to see what is possible. But depending on the state, certainly that is an avenue some people take. They might have their kids do like math or science or gym or PE or other things at a local school, but then they can do these kind of deeper areas of interest, these concentrated interests in a different way that would really kind of play to their kids' strengths. So that might be possible. So much wisdom in here. I want to just like highlight, Seth mentioned his UGYG. That is his online course. It's called Upgrade Your Grades, and you can learn more about that at sethperler.com. So definitely check out the show notes for this page. There'll be a ton of resources on how you can learn more about executive functioning and the Executive Function Lab and connect with Seth. But Seth, thank you for joining me today and for sharing all this. And thanks to the listener for this great question. Anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Thanks for what you do, Debbie. And thank you, everybody, for listening and just taking that active role, taking action to support your kids.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Bye, everybody. You've been listening to the Tilt Parenting Podcast. To learn more about the resources mentioned in this Parent Lean In episode, go to the extensive show notes page on tiltparenting.com. To submit a question for a future episode, just go to tiltparenting.com/leanin. That's tiltparenting.com/LEANIN. If you're looking for personal support from me and connection with the phenomenal community of parents raising neurodivergent kids, join us in the recently rebooted Differently Wired Club. The new Differently Wired Club can help you cultivate the positive shifts you're hoping for. Go to tiltparenting.com/club to learn more. The Tilt Parenting Podcast is hosted by me, Debbie Reber, author of Differently Wired and the founder of Tilt Parenting. To support this show, please join my Patreon campaign where you can set up a small monthly contribution. Just go to patreon.com/tiltparenting to learn more. If you want to follow Tilt on social media, go to @tiltparenting on Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, please take a minute to leave a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps this show stay visible so others can find it more easily. And that's all for this week. Stay safe, stay well, and take good care. And for more information about any of the parenting resources Tilt offers, visit tiltparenting.com.
If you're a parent, I invite you to join us at the Mindful Mama podcast, where it's all about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. With sometimes hilarious and always thought-provoking experts and friends, at Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm Hunter Clark Fields, and I can't wait to see you there. Listen in to the Mindful Mama podcast.